Welcome back. This is Undercode Software. In this tutorial today we are going to look about input function or input method plus lists. So in our last topic or video we talked about string methods, so we covered a lot of string methods. Do more research on string methods, but those were the main methods we use in string methods. For today we are going to talk about the input function. So with the input function, it's like just used to ask users to put answers, to put variables on his own. You just ask a user a question, or you prompt him or her to put or to input the value, any string answers. So just the input function is used to ask a user, then he puts his own variables or answers. So we first create a variables, some good variables. So for today, let's create some variable. Let's name it variable. So variable equals input method. So we create a method, we add on the value of a method, we put input method inside the method, the input, we put the quotes. So let's say quote, then we add in a string. It can be a string or it can be an integer. It can be an integer, or it can be a variable. It can also be a variable, but variables, we don't put variables in quotes, so it can be a variable. So if you run such codes and it so let me say this is how we are going to use the input method, by creating variables, open quotes. Into the quotes we put open parentheses, into the quotes we put strings. So let's go ahead and let's make another, let's create here a variable. Let's make this as a comment. Let's make a variable, let's say name. If you want to ask a user the name, so name equals input open parentheses, enter what you ask. Let's say what's your name, then we put a space. So when we come back down, we print, let's print out our input, print, let's say hello. Let's make this capital H, let's say hello. Then we add our variable called the name. Also we can add an exclamation mark maybe, but this must be in quotes. Also this in quotes, like that. So if we try to run our program, so let's go and run our program and see. So it asks what is your name. The input asks a question, so it's asking what's your name. We should put the answer, let's say Ryan, and you press enter. If you press enter, it brings hello Ryan. Oops, let's make it visible. We add here also here a space and bit modify our work, so let it look like this. So let's run again our program and see. Yeah, what's our name? Let's say call it Ryan. We press enter and it brings hi Ryan. Just as I told you, the input method is just to prompt the user to put in his own answers, variables. Let's say, so here we are using variables plus strings, the string method. So that's all about input method. So we can make also let me say a basic calculator, and we ask a user or to prompt a user to input his value or figures so that we can get an answer. Let's go into that and make a basic calculator. So for a basic calculator, we are going to need, let's put this into comments. For a basic calculator, we are going to need some variables, say num1, meaning number. Num1 is equals to input. It's going to ask the user the first question, the first number. Enter number, exclamation. So we are going to make another variable called the num2. Also do the same thing. We are going to use the input method. So for num2, enter another number. Enter another number. Oops. Enter another number. So we are going to make a certain just basic calculator, which we're going to prompt the user to input the number and we sum up. So we are going to make another variable called results. Should be equals to, so we are going to add num1 plus num2. So don't forget that integers for numbers we use int to convert strings into numbers or to be readable by Python. So let's say num1 plus integer of num2 then let us print our results. So we are summing up num1 plus num2. So let's print the results and see. Print results. Let's run our code. It's going to ask us to enter the first number. Let's say 4. Then enter another number. Let me say 5. It's going to give us the answer. So the answer is 9. So 4 plus 5 equals 9. So we have made a simple basic calculator using the input method when you are prompting your user to put any figures you like. So let's run again and we see our program. Enter our first number. Let me say 34. Oops. Let me say 34. Enter second number. Let me say 12. When we press enter again, it gives us the number 34 plus 12, you get 46. So that's all about the basic calculator. But note, when we are dealing with calculators, if we didn't use the int method. Let's remove the int method like this and this, and also remove, yeah, let's learn like this, and let's run again and see. Let's run again. Yes, enter first name cell, let's say 4. Then another number is, let me say 4. It will give us 44, but when we try to change, then let's run again and we put a string. So let's put S and another number. You see, it will just sum up our words. So to convert these strings, instead of, with calculators they use numbers, they use integers. So when you put, for the problem with our method is that it cannot convert whatever we put in, we prompt our user into numbers. It just uses them as string. Even if we put here 4, we enter 4 here. Next one again. If you put 4, it's just reading it as a string. It's just reading it as a string, you see. You get 4u. When you run 4 plus u, you get 4u. So to change this into as an integer, we put int to convert it into an integer. Let's run again and try to input strings. So if you try to put here strings like this, you see, we get a value error, meaning that we entered a wrong input. So we entered a value error. This is a value error. It's telling us invalid. As you see, this is an error. So we need to put, that's how you are prompting a user not to put strings. You must put what they call integers, numbers. So our Python program is very smart. We get an error. So we should note that. So even if we try to put, let's run and try to put some decimal figures, decimal numbers. So let's run again. Put 4.8. Let's say 4.8. Enter second number. 8.9. Let's run again. Also we get an error. Reason, we are dealing with whole numbers, integers, whole numbers. But when we want to deal with decimal numbers, points numbers, we change the int fraction, the int method to float into a float function. So we change this also to float. So that's when we run again our program. So 4.8. Oops. When we run again our program 4.8, you press enter. Let's enter another number. Let me say 7.9. You see, it sums up. It gives us 12.7. Reason, this is, we have used the flat integer, the flat method. So for flat numbers like decimal numbers, we use flat method, flat function. For whole numbers, we use integer. For strings, to convert into strings, we use strings. So that was all about the input method. Let's go for another tutorial called lists. So lists, in lists, it's just one of the most powerful data structure in Python. It's just a sequence. You can include anything you want in it. It can be an integer, all character, letters, shortly anything you put in, it works. But all you have to do is just, in creating lists, we use what I call square brackets. We use what they call square brackets in lists. So let's go back to and we see what I'm trying to talk about. So first and foremost, we are going to first create our first list, and we are going to name it list 1. So let's make our first list. Is going to be called list1. Our variable name is going to be list1 is equivalent to, but remember in lists we use square brackets. In list we use square brackets, and when dealing with integers we don't include quotes. We don't include these quotes when we are dealing with numbers. So let's remove them. Note, in lists we don't put quotes when we are dealing with numbers or integers. So let's create a list of integers. So like say 1 comma 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4 comma 5 comma 6. Let's try it in there. So if you want to print any element in this our variable list 1, we use what I call the index function. We use what I call the index function. So when you want to call any element in our list 1, we use what I call the index function. So for the index function, index we learned about index in our past tutorial. So if you didn't watch that video, so go back and try to look for one of my tutorial or the previous one. You are going to find about, we discussed about index. So index starts from 0 as the first counting number. So for this one, this is 0, this is 1, 2, so and I end up with -1. When you are reversing from the other way side round, when you're coming the other way side round, this is -1, then this is a 0. So let's try to, if you want to get, let me say to print out element, let me say let's take it free, let's take element free. So we use the index like list1 square brackets, the element 0, it will be 1, then 0, this is 0, 1, 2, so element 2, so that if you want to print to element 3, we write 2, so because index starts from 0, so let's print the index 0. So when we try to run, let me say, so when we try to run our program, or we try to print out the list 1 into the index 2, let's run our program. It will give us 3. As you see, it will give us 3 in our terminal. Reason, 3 is at the index of 2. So if we try also to print, let's say print the index of let me say 6 will be 5, so let's run our program and we see, yes, the index of 65. So if you want to cut out or to print any element from the list, we use what they call index. So let me say you can also use what they call strings. Let me introduce you to strings in the lists and see that strings do get quotes, do use quotes. Let's make a list called friend, a variable called friends, and make a list of friends. So for them, let's try to make Kevin like this, Kevin, then comma, you put the quotes, let me say Karen, you add a quotes, let me say Ryan, say Ryan, add quotes, comma. Let's print a last one just called Rita. Also, don't forget we should put it in quotes like that. So if you want one of our elements from our variable or list of friends, we just print friends, and we use the index. Let me say index 1. So if we try to run our program in our terminal, we see that it has printed Kiran. It has printed Kiran here in our list. So if when we try to run and change this to free, we say it will run Rita, because Rita is at an index of 3, because this is 0, 1, 2, 3. You can see. So if you want to print the whole list of these friends, we just say print just friends. So let's run our terminal. You see, it prints the list of names in our variable. Let's try and see if when we do like this and put, let's run again our program and see. Error. What if we do like this? We put just quotes and we run and see. It still does the same thing. So if we just put these dots, we just again print the same. So this may print friends and print into square brackets. They give the same answers. They give us a full, they print out friends, a list of friends. So let me say, if you want to print a range of names, let me say from, you print only Kiran and Ryan. You print only these two. So for these two, we'll use what they call colons. So let me say print a list from 1 to 3. From 1 to 3. From index 1 to index 3. But not when we are dealing with index. So note this. Our program, when we run this program, it's going to give us the index number 3, the index number 1, and the index number 2, but not including index number 3. It will print just from 1, index number 1, 2, but it won't include 3. That's how index works. It won't include the last index, the value of the last, the element of the last index. Let's run our program and see. Yes, this is what I was talking about. We put just the index of 1, index number 1, and we also said from 1 to 3. But when dealing with index, it won't include the third index or the index of the last index. It won't include that element of the last index. So let me try and see. So let's say from 0 to 2, it will just print from 0 and 1, not including index 2, element of index 2. Let's run and see. Yeah, it has just given us this 0 index and index Also, let's say if you want to print starting from a certain index, starting from a certain element, going above and above, or starting from a certain element below, we will just use the index and the colon. Like, let me say, if you want to print index starting from index element of index number 2 below, we write dot or colon the number of index where you want to start from below. So let me try and run and see. As you see, it has just printed from Karen and Kevin below. So if we try to change this from 2 and 2, we put it at first, then before the colon. Let's run again the program and see. It will just print above. It will just print from here and above. As you see, it prints Ryan and Rita, but not this time round. It includes the element of index 2. Note that it includes the element of index 2. So if we try to change here and we put here, let me say 1, it will just include this one, Karen, and above, plus all these ones. Just put that in mind. So let's run our program. You see, it has included this. But when you try to change that from index number 1 to index number 3 and we run our program, it won't include the index element of 3. It won't include the index element of 3. Note that. So that was all about lists. So in the next tutorial, we are going to look about methods used in lists or modifying lists. So we are going to look about extending, popping, counting, joining, appending, inserting, copying, everything. So just stay tuned, just subscribe. Don't forget to hit the notification bell for more videos. Thanks for watching my videos. So if you have liked my videos, just comment, like, share and subscribe. Thank you very much for being with me. See you in the next tutorial.